Okay, can you see my screen? Everything good? Everything is all right? Can you listen to me all perfect?
Yes, teacher.
There you go. Okay, very good. Very good. So this week we're going to have two classes related to the week number three. Okay. In the first class, well, the general topic of the week it's talking about traveling abroad. Anybody remember what is the meaning of abroad?
Other country.
To other country. Thank you, Andre. Yes, exactly, to other country. So it's gonna talk about like traveling abroad in the past and in the present and in the future in different tenses. Yes, but we're going to do different things with the language, but most of the things related to traveling abroad. Yeah. This is the infographic that I left you in the platform. Yeah. So in this case, we have five questions and we have a series of things of, in this case, emotions, like adjectives or feelings that we have when we travel. No? In this case, I would like you to answer first the question. I know that it's not the order, but no problem. We're going to answer here first the question number four and then the question number five. My dear girls, have you traveled abroad? Have you traveled to other countries?
Yes, I have.
Andre, where have you traveled?
The last year, I traveled to Malta.
Malta near
Uh,
to Italy?
yes,
Ah,
the
okay.
island. Yes, I I have lived for 6 months.
Oh, good.
And I traveled to Spain, France, and London.
Okay, perfect. Great.
Yes.
Okay, my dear Andrea. So you have a lot of anecdotes there. Vale, Emily, where have you traveled abroad to other different countries?
Yes, a year ago I traveled to the United States. I went to New York.
Where did you go, Vale? New York?
New York, yes.
Yeah, that profile picture is on New York. I can see that that is on Fifth Avenue, right?
Yes, I was in Times Square.
In Times Square. Very good, excellent. Yeah, I can see it with all the lights. It's pretty. How do you say that? Identical. Like it's like the picture. It's very descriptive. Yeah. Emily, what about you? Where have you traveled? Have you traveled abroad to other countries or no, or what?
No, I don't have the opportunity yet.
Okay, okay, very good. Yeah. So in that case, well, when we travel, of course, that many things that can happen, right? I can have accidents, I can have good experiences, bad experiences. I can have a lot of anecdotes, no? Anecdotes, which means like a short story, something short that I can usually tell to people, like in a way to entertain the other people, no? So the anecdotes are supposed to be things which are entertaining most of the times, right? Most of the times they are something funny or probably something embarrassing, but it's not a big story. It's something short that I can tell that happened to me during a trip. Yes, guys, I would like to know if you have a trip, if you have an anecdote that you can recall, something that you can remember that you said, "Hey, teacher, this happened to me, no say in Malta, in New York, or something like that." Hmm? Do you have any experiences like that? Hmm? Yeah, I can remember, for example, that I was traveling to Punta Cana. I was going to Punta Cana, and my flight had to make an scale in Panama City. Yes, but I don't know if you have visited Panama's airport, but it's very long. So one gate it's super far from the other gate. So in that case, for example, we were going to the departure gate, but it was like 5 minutes no more, and the distance was like I don't know 3 kilometers or something like that. So we had to run a lot for all the airport to catch the other flight, no? Because in the previous flight, we had been delayed. Do you know what is the meaning of delayed?
Tardado, ¿no?
Retardados, demorados, very good. So for that reason, when I was going to Punta Cana, I had to run a lot in Panama City because I almost lost, sorry, the second flight for that reason. Good. But what about you? Do you have any kind of anecdotes like this in Malta or New York or in any other place?
Yes, I lost the flight to Malta.
Oh my God. From here, from Bogota?
No, I have the stops. The first stop. Uh, okay, I traveled to Orlando uh, before to travel to Malta.
Okay.
So in Orlando, I confused the day. So I thought the flight uh, the flight was in Saturday, in Friday, no, in Saturday.
Okay.
So I confused the day. So the flight was really was in Friday.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
reviewed the the, the page, and and I I couldn't do the
The
check-in
check-in.
check-ins.
Oh my God. No.
So I review, and I don't know, the airline, I
Airline,
don't
airline.
airline. Uh, the airline is low cost, so no is necessary check-in because it's
Ah,
in
okay.
the airport. So uh, this night, Friday in the night, I review I I don't
I checked.
I review my mail,
I checked.
and the mail said, uh, you fly, you fly, arrancó, I don't, despegó,
Took off. Take off
to
is,
go.
yes, take off. It's the verb despegar. En pasado sería took
Okay,
off.
take off,
Mm,
took off because
mhm.
it's in past.
Exactly.
So so no, well, okay, I bought the other ticket because I start a class in the next Monday. So I I I had to travel because I started I my class, so
Mhm,
I
mhm.
bought.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's those stories in this moment are funny, but in that moment, I suppose that should have been very stressing, no? Like, oh my God, my flight, the money and everything.
Yes, but in this moment it's sad because the cost for the flight was very expensive. It's expensive.
Of course, that it should have been. It was very expensive because it was in a short term, so it was very.
Mhm.
Bueno, André, muy bien. Thank you for sharing that anecdote with us. So, as you can see, the anecdotes are simply short stories that we try to tell to other people, like, well, in this case, in order to prevent from a possible disaster, but also it's usually to entertain or to make a friendly talk, like a small chat, right? So when we usually have anecdotes, most of the times, as Andrea told us, it's the verb in past, no? Because of course we are talking about things that already happened, right? Now, but when we talk about anecdotes, it's not only about the past. I mean, it's about the past, but in the past we can talk about previous actions or long actions or simultaneous actions or one action that interrupted to the other. So that's why we have different kinds of past. First of all, we're going to have the difference between past continuous and the simple past, right? The past continuous, which is created using was and were plus the verb in ing, yes? It's going to be an action, or it's a sentence that we use for giving context. So, for example, when I described what I was doing, I said, okay, I was going to a Dominican Republic. Yes. But I had to make a stop in Panama City, but I give the context using the past continuous. The past continuous is a long action that usually involves all the situation. Ready? So when I want to start the story or the anecdote, I usually start with past continuous because I'm going to describe what I was doing. I was working, I was studying, I was traveling to other country, I was traveling in, or I was living in Malta, or I was studying in United States, or whatever, ¿cierto? Using the past continuous. So that action in past continuous is usually the first action. So when we want to describe the second action or the subsequent action, there is where I'm going to use the simple past. The simple past is going to be also for use for talk about the next action. When I mention an anecdote, usually I do it in the chronological order. What happened after and what happened after and what happened after. Every time that I tell what happened after, I am going to use the simple past. Yes? That's when I start talking about the anecdote in order. Yes. So I know, teacher, I checked the mail, and then after that I realized that I lost my flight, and then after that I bought another plane, and then after that I arrived to Orlando, ¿cierto? En orden cronológico, in chronological order. Yes. So if I talk about the next action, I use it in past continuous. Ready? But for talking about the general context of the situation, I do it in past continuous. Ready? For example, in this case, I said, I was sleeping. That's the general context. What I was doing, I was sleeping. And what happened? Like 4 or 5 or 6 hours later, my mother called. Hmm? Simple past, because it's the action that was right after that. Ready? So when I have the question, the action, which is like the initial action of the story, like setting up the context, I'm gonna use past continuous. But when I start talking about the specific details that happened, then I start to use a simple past. Ready? Claro, of course, it's also a possibility. It's also a possibility that I can use two actions simultaneous. For example, I was sleeping, like in this case, yes. And I can also describe other action that was going on. During all this moment that I was sleeping, my mom was my mom was working. Ready? So, but in that case, when I have two different actions, I have to use something to connect those two actions. So I can use the relative clause when, because it's about time, or while. Ready? When, which of course means cuando, and while, what's the meaning of while?
Mientras,
Mientras, very good. So, for example, in this case, which I use, or which in which I am using two actions which are simultaneous, both are long, then I can use the connector while. For example, I was sleeping while my mom was working. Yeah. If on contrary, I'm going to use a long action and then a simple action that is after, usually I use when. Ready? So I was sleeping when my mother called, or but on the other hand, I was sleeping while my mother was working. Yes? Or I can do it if I want to start with the second action. For example, my mother called while I was sleeping. Anyway, this action happened second and this action happened first. But I want to start the story with this sentence and then with the other. So I can do it using the connector while. Ready? So I have two connectors in this case for using past continuous and simple past in order to give more specificity to the story's context. ¿Listo? ¿Qué tal hasta ahí? How do you feel? Questions, problems, difficulties? So far, so good.
Everything sounds cool.
Thank you, Emmy. Okay, very good. So. Okay, so, ready. So far, we talk about what happened when we want to describe the general context and also the next action. But sometimes in the story, I have to go back to mention the other previous action. Yes? When I want to talk about the previous action, I am going to have another different past. We have past continuous for general context, simple past for the next action, but then we're going to have also the past perfect. Ready? This is the past perfect. What the hell is the past perfect? We are going to go to the other here thing here. Past perfect. What is that? Ready? So the past perfect is going to be a tense which is created, yes, for talking about past actions in a past story. It's usually known as the past of the past because it's a previous action or something that happened before other action in past. Hmm? Example, for example, yes, I had cooked lunch before. The past perfect is created using had and the verb in past participle. Had, in this case, it's like when we said había o habíamos o habías, ready? And then the verb in past participle, ready? So, for example, when I say I had cooked lunch before, of course, I had cooked lunch before other action. So, this action happened first, and then the other action happened in the second place, right? If it's negative, I am going to use only had not or hadn't. Yeah? Or if it's a question, I have to change had before the subject, and that's it, right? Usually, we normally use it for affirmative and negative for talking about previous action inside an anecdote. No? For example, I said that I was going to Dominican Republic. Yeah, that is the general context. Yes. And in Panama City, yes, I had to run to catch, I shoot to catch my second plane. Yes. So the next action. And then I am going to give you more context talking about a previous action, something that happened before. So I said, you know what? You know what? Because the first plane had been delayed. After or before? No, it's before. That's why it's the first plane. Okay. So before I arrived to Panama City, the airplane from Bogota to Panama had been delayed, right? Before the other action. So that way, we're going to use the past perfect in order to talk about actions that happen before other actions in the past. Yeah? What do you think? More or less? Examples or what? Do you need some examples or not? No? Well, let's continue then. So then the past perfect is going to be used to describe an action finished before another action in the past. Like, for example, Richard had gone out when his wife arrived to the office. He had first gone out, yes, when his wife arrived to the office. So first he went out, and second, she arrived to the office, but after the other action. Ready? Or to describe an action that happened before a specific time in the past. Christine had never been to an opera before last night. Yes. So before this point in the time, she had never been to an opera in her life, right? Or it's a possibility to describe cause and effect, like for example, in this example. Like, come on, I should wait. Yes. Like for example, here I am describing cause and effect. I had to run because previously the cause was that the first plane had been delayed. No, so that case is I got stuck in traffic because there had been an accident. Cause and effect. And number four, you can use it to emphasize the result of an activity in the past. I had been in London twice by the time I got a job in New York, right? So it's like, okay, just giving emphasis on that action first. ¿Listo? So those are the four uses of the past perfect, talking about actions that happened before other actions in the past. ¿Listo? Ready? So in this case, for example, I said that my mother had called before, like let's say at 7 a.m. when I finally woke up, let's say at 8 a.m. The actions are not connected, they are separated. I just want to mention that one action, the action first, happened before the other action, but they are not connected on any. I can also use the connector when. Hmm? On the other hand, when I mention for cause and consequence, I'm going to use the connector because. I finally woke up, yes, because my mother had called. Yeah. So the first action was the cause of the second action to happen. Hmm? Right? So those are going to be the different uses of the past perfect in front of the simple past and the past continuous. Okay. Example, guys. Here is a short anecdote. Mrs. Valeria, could you please help me to read from the beginning until classroom, please?
Last week I was working in the university and around 6 p.m. at the end of the class I found a cell phone in the back of the classroom.
Okay, so last week I contextualized, I was working in the university. And after that, around 6 p.m., at the end of the class, I found a cell phone in the back of the classroom. So what's happening? I was working, ¿cierto? And at 6 p.m., around 6 p.m., I found a cell phone. ¿Listo? Mr. Andres, go ahead. From here until the semicolon.
After the class, I was trying to find the owner for about 1 hour when suddenly I saw one of his friends.
Excellent. So he says, after the class, I was trying, it's a long action. I was trying to find the owner for about 1 hour when suddenly I saw. Yes, so I was doing the action for 1 hour and out of the blue, de la nada, I saw one of his friends. Ready? Listo, muy bien. And the last part, Mr. Daniel.
Me?
Yes?
When the last guy had end, or the last guy had end, sorry.
Once again, please. I didn't get it.
Um, okay, I'm gonna read it. Sorry. After the class, I was trying to find the owner
Ah,
for
okay,
about
no,
one
we are
hour.
in the last line. The girl told me.
Okay, okay. The girl told me that her friend had gone home 30 minutes before, around 6 uh, 6:15 p.m.
Very good. Excellent. So the girl told me, yes, after I found the girl, she told me that her friend had gone. Why had gone? Because it was a lot of time, like 30 minutes before, no, around 6 p.m., 6:15 p.m. Ready? So as she's telling me about a previous action, yeah, then I have to mention it into the past perfect. Ready? Because it's an action that happened before another action that happened before it. Yes? So that's why we use the past perfect. ¿Listo? What do you think, guys? Questions, difficulties, problems, clear, not clear, more or less?
Clear so far, teacher.
Clear, teacher, clear.
Excellent, very good. So we're gonna go to a short activity, practical activity. Ready? In this case, we're going to have this sentence, this anecdote. It's something short to complete, ready? And you gotta use the verbs that we have here. Move, be, take, realize, arrive, wait, go, see. So you have 5 minutes, go ahead, use the verbs, complete the story. Of course, some of them are in past continuous, some others are in past perfect, some others are in simple past. So check the story and we are going to try to finish it in 5 minutes, okay? If you want, you can use
Okay.
the pen here. Pueden usar si quieren el lápiz acá para anotar su respuesta, la que ustedes crean. Creo que en la pantallita les sale a todos para anotar. Si tienen con qué o si están desde el celu, pueden anotar acá For example, while I was, no sé, arriving, ejemplo, no sé si es esa, pero suponiendo. While I was arriving, pueden anotar ahí la respuesta que crean correcta. ¿Ok? O pueden ponerlo en textico acá, sí, ok, teacher, while I was, tú. ¿Es? Depende. Cómo lo quieran hacer, no worries. Okay, okay. I think that you almost got it. Emily got it perfect. So great, wonderful, marvelous. So in this case, the first part, of course, it's a general context. So the person says, you know what? I was going, I was going back home. Yeah. And I was in the record station. And of course, I was waiting for the bus. Two actions that were simultaneous. No, I was going back home, and of course, I was waiting for the bus. Suddenly, I saw a man. Yeah, I just saw, I realized the man was behind. So I saw a man, and he was very suspicious. Yes. Notice that when I start talking about like advancing on the story, then I start using simple past. I saw, and he was, so I moved far from him, simple past, yes. Unfortunately, when I arrived home or when I got home, I realized. Yes, hasta ahí continúo avanzando en la historia, por eso sigo usando simple past, simple past, simple past. Yes. And I realized that he, y aquí me voy a devolver porque es que él la sacó cuando estábamos en la estación, ¿cierto? It was before. So in that case, I said, I realized that he had taken my laptop out of my backpack. ¿Cuándo? When we were in the Ricardo station, when I was waiting for the bus. Ready? So that's why we have to use the past perfect. ¿Listo? ¿Qué tal? ¿Sí les quedó bien? Good? More or less? Difficult or was good? 50-50. No, Daniel, creo que solo te quedó uno mal, que fue la de I took that he took my laptop. The rest of everything was perfect. Right? Muy bien, Daniel. Excellent. So, bueno. So in this case, when we talk about anecdotes, we can do it like that, no? So using a lot of different tenses, past continuous, simple past, past perfect. Siempre vamos a tener esos tres tiempos. Past perfect, simple past, and past continuous, right? But at the same time also, we're going to have to be very careful with the time prepositions, so with the prepositions of time. Why? Well, it's simple because depending on the situation that I want to describe, yes, I am going to use different expressions in past. Yeah. In past, we have different expressions of time prepositions like in, on, at, but a part of those, we have others, no? So let me show you here. Here. For example, if we talk about historical events, yes, we're going to have different dates. The World Trade Center attack was in 2001, the Bogotá was in 1948, ¿cierto? But the action of Berlin's wall turned down, it took 2 years. So I cannot say in because it was a period of 2 years, right? Or the car was invented, but it was not invented in 1 year. Like, for example, Bogotá was in 1 day specifically. It was April the 9th. Yes. Or the World Trade Center attack, it was 1 day. It was September 11th, right? But the car invention was a long process in this year, but it was a long process. So I have to use a different expression. Or for example, the airplane was perfected, but it was a process of 2 or 3 years. Yes. And also the development of the internet. Yes. So in that case, depending the expression of time that I have, I am going to use a different um, time preposition or time adverb. Yes. Let's see what adverbs of time we have when we talk about past. Normally, we can have these ones, right? We can have these expressions of time in order to mention situations in the past, right? We have, for example, in and during for talking about years, from and to for a period of time, and then others, no? Let's start with in and during. In and during, both are going to have a year. What is the difference? The difference is the type of action that I mentioned. For example, when I say in 2025, I went to Mexico. Yes. It was like in one specific moment. But for example, Andrea lived in Malta during 2025. Why? Because it was 6 months. It was a longer action. So when I use during, I can use during 2025, during the 80s, during the 90s. Yes. But because the action is a longer action, right? One example, if I say, for example, let me just erase this part. I can say, Hitler died 1945. What do you think? It would be in or during?
In.
In, because it's a specific action that happened in one moment, right? But if I say, for example, Hitler ruled 1940s, what do you think? In or during?
During.
During, of course, because the action of governed, it's a longer action. So that's why we use during. But in both cases, I can have years or decades if you want. The 40s, the 50s, or 1945, say 1955 or something like that. Ready? Now, when I use from and to, yeah, It's because I have a period of time. And from, I use it for the beginning, and to, I use it for the end. Example, with the Berlin's Wall process. It happened from year ta 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 to year ta ta ta. Yes? So I can say that the Berlin Wall was destroyed from 1992 to 1995. I think so. I don't remember, but from 1992 to 1995, mentioning the beginning and mentioning the end of that process. Okay. Example, for example, if I Andrea, no, you know what, teacher? I was living in Malta from January to April, from January to June, or from September to February, look, say, whatever. No, so from and to, usually together. Okay. Then we're going to have the verb on, the preposition on, which is similar to in, but with a complete date. On, it's going to have month plus day. And if it's necessary, plus year. Yes. For example, the two airplanes crashed against the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001. Yes. When I use on, it's a complete date. Ready? Different from that, when I use for, it's going to be for a period of time, but not mentioning de aquí hasta acá, but mentioning the quantity of time. For example, I lived I live in Mexico City. I live in Mexico City for let's say 3 months. Yes. I am not saying from January to March. No, I'm saying quantity of time for 3 months. Or I can say for about, no, like more or less, for about 3 months. Ready? So those three. Last, it's previous, last year, last Monday, last week, whatever. And ago, it's going to be the quantity of time that has passed from the present until that moment. Example, two airplanes crashed against the World Trade Center 24 years ago. Yes? How much time has passed from now to that moment? 24 years. So that's why I said 24 years ago. Hmm? Or you know what? Valeria was in New York, I don't know, let's say a year ago, more or less, around a year ago, around 6 months ago, around da 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 da. Da. Ready? So in that case, those prepositions of time are going to help me to introduce different details about my anecdotes. Be very specific about the time of the story. Ready? Depending if it was in or during or from or to. Or Ready? Guys, any questions about the prepositions of time that we have seen here? No? Everything good?
No.
Okay, very good. So, especially for example, when we talk about anecdotes, it's kind of important to mention the time, right? Why? Because of course it's kind of necessary for contextualizing the other person in terms of what I would like to tell them. Yeah, because if I say let's say I lost my flight. Ah, bueno, okay, pero when? What were you doing? So he said, no, ¿sabe qué? Es que last year, last year, right? First, I was traveling to Orlando. Yes. Entonces, past continues for giving the general context. Last year, I was traveling to Orlando. And yes, I lost my flight on, no sé, on February the 2nd, for example, right? I lost my flight on February the 2nd because ¿cierto? All the details, but giving specific information about the time. Is that all right? So in that case, these prepositions are going to help me to do that. It's just giving time expressions in order to do that. Now, if I want to connect other two ideas in the past, yes, I'm going to have other different adverbs, like for example, this one. I have after, which is después. I have as soon as, which what is the meaning of as soon as?
como lo más pronto
Tan pronto
posible para
como.
hacer.
Tan pronto como Emily. Muy bien, very good. As soon as possible es tan pronto como puedas, lo que llamamos ASAP, que es as soon as possible, pero as soon as, solito as soon as es tan pronto como. ¿Listo? That it's similar to the moment and it's similar to once. Also, we can talk about before, we can talk about when, and we can talk about by the time or until. Estos adverbios me van a permitir conectar dos ideas en el pasado con una relación de tiempo. Example. When I mentioned that I did something after the other thing, es algo que pasó después de, no inmediatamente, solo después. Now, on the other hand, if I say the moment, as soon as, or once, es algo que pasó inmediatamente después. Example, the moment no sé, the moment I lost my flight, ¿qué hiciste, André? Inmediatamente después. What did you do after you lost your flight?
Sorry, teacher.
What did you do after you lost your flight? What did you have to do?
I bought my new flight.
Exactly. So I bought another flight. But it was immediately after. So I said the moment, or I can say as soon as I lost my flight, or I can say once, una vez que, once I lost my flight, I bought my other flight. Yes. So another possibility. Yeah. After, pues después. No, no dice exactamente si fue muy después o muy poco después, pero después, right? And on the other hand, we have before. Before, it's going to work with past perfect. The same as by the time and the same as until, because they are going to mention things that had happened or had not happened before that action. No? For example, when I say, let's say, wait a second, until I lost my flight, I had never lost, no sé, anything, ¿cierto? O until I lost my flight, I had never bought an expensive ticket, for example, right? Or before, that's the other possibility, no? Let's say, vale, algo que te pasó, something that happened to you in New York, whatever, anything that you want to tell us.
Squirrels climbed on me. Climbed it. Climbed me.
Again, again, again.
Squirrels climbed me. I think it was four squirrels. Ardillas.
Ah, squirrel. I no way. Seriously, a squirrel.
Yes.
In Central Park?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, muy bien, very good. So, for example, Valeria can say that before, before the squirrel beat me, comma, oh my God, I had never seen a real squirrel before, ¿cierto? Entonces, before the squirrel beat me, I had never. ¿Por qué? Porque antes de eso nunca había visto una ardilla real, right? Entonces, when I am going to use these adverbs, are going to give me the possibility to connect the different ideas, ¿no? Different ideas of my anecdote, right? ¿Mm? Preguntas sobre alguno de los adverbios que están acá. After, as soon as, until, by the time. No, it's good. It's good. So when I have ideas and connectors, I am going to have always two possibilities. The first possibility is that I can have connecting idea, a connector, idea number one, comma, and idea number two. Like for example, after this happened, comma, the other thing happened. Or the other possibility that I can have is that I have the idea number one, connector in the middle, and the idea number two. Example, this happened after this happened. Both options are going to be just fine. Yes, so it depends on how you want to exemplify your ideas, but both are going to be possible. Yeah, for example, I said, no sé, when I went to, no sé, when I went to London, ¿cierto? Coma, I met the Big Ben, ¿cierto? That's using the connector at the beginning, when, and then a comma in the middle. But I can also put this connector in the middle for not using comma. I met the Big Ben when I went to London, right? It's exactly the same idea. When I use the prepositions of time, cuando uso las preposiciones de tiempo, I can put them at the beginning or I can put them at the end, right? I can say, for example, that 3 years ago, oh my God, sorry. 3 years ago, I went to London. Yes. Or I can use it at the end. I went to London 3 years ago. Notice that when I use at the beginning the connector, I have to separate them with a comma. I have to use a comma in order to separate that idea. When at the beginning, comma in the middle. 3 years ago at the beginning, comma in the middle. But when I use the connector in the middle, I don't have to use any comma. I went to your 3 years ago at the end, and that's it. Okay? How do you feel with this? Questions, difficulties, or problems? Everything was good. Okay, this is perfect. So, my dear girls, I would like you to think on an anecdote. I'm going to ask you again the question that we had at the beginning. What is your best anecdote traveling? Yes. And tell it to me. Something short. Can be in Colombia, can be in Europe, can be in United States, can be wherever you want. Somebody, somewhere you want. No problem. Tell me one anecdote, of course, different from the one of the squirrel and the plane, but try to tell me something short. Of course, contextualizing the time. Think about it. What happened? What happened first? What happened second? When did it happen? Happened 3 years ago, 4 years ago, in 2023. No sé. Tell me the time.
Okay. Eh, mm, the last year when I was mm, coming back, maybe coming back
Yes,
to
yes, go ahead.
Colombia.
Mhm.
Uh, I I went to Egypt and for me was a best anecdote because uh, I I was visiting two
Pyramid?
pyramid, yes, and uh, the strange anecdote, for example, the people, the people, I don't know, I don't remember the verb, pide.
Ask. Ask for. Es un phrasal verb que es ask, como de preguntar, pero con la
Uh-huh.
preposición for. Ask.
Okay, ask for a picture
Ujú,
because because I I and the tourists were different,
ujú,
different. So the people the Egypt people
ujú.
asked for their picture. So for me was very strange because I I feel I don't know, for example, famous.
Exactly, like famous, yes.
Yes. And other an strange anecdote was the culture because the woman all time use distinct clothes.
Ujú,
And for example, I have a tattoo. So the locals saw my tattoo, and I I feel I feel bad. I no comfortable. So
okay.
it's strange.
Mm.
And no more.
Excellent,
uh,
very good, Andre. Muy bien. For example, in that case, I mean, the information you gave us is really valuable, no? Because you said, for example, once they saw my tattoo, which I suppose it was a little bit like, oh my God, like this. So I felt uncomfortable, no? So, because the information that you gave us is perfect. What is missing? This kind of connecting idea, no? So, apenas me empezaron a ver, me sentí incómoda, right? So, as soon as,
okay,
exactly like that, because the ideas were perfect. So, I felt uncomfortable and blah, 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 blah. When they asked me for a picture, I felt famous, ¿no? Like, for example, famous, ¿no? Entonces, es simplemente añadirle esas pequeñas conexiones, André, pero muy bien, excelente, very good.
okay.
Ujú. Vale, Amy, do you have any experiences?
Last year, I went on the school trip, the graduation one, at the end of the year. We were at the beach, and some crabs started chasing us.
Oh,
It was a lot of crabs, maybe 10, I don't
ay,
know. And my friends and I felt so scared. We ran as fast as we can, and it was funny, honestly, but we were scared, so scared.
of course. And but nobody got hurt. Nobody got beat by the crab.
My best friend
Ay, phew.
in the heat.
Ay, my God. Well, nobody lost an arm or a hand or something. No, everybody was complete.
No, everyone was complete.
Muy bien, very good, Vale. Thank you. So once again, there is the possibility to include a connector, no? So we said like, okay, last year it was in the excursion for the trip and for the school trip, da, da, da. And when we were in the beach, she actually used it when we were on the beach. The crabs starting to chase us, not like to pursue us. And we could say, for example, that as soon as they started to come after us, we were very scared or something like that. Yeah. Or for example, until that time, como hasta ese momento, until that time, I had never seen crabs before, or I had never been chased by any animal, for example. Something like that. Muy bien, vale. Emily, finally.
Yes, and when I went to Santa Marta, like 2 years ago, we were on the beach and I decided to take a short walk, but I had forgotten my flip flops, so I burned my feet.
Okay, 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 great. I mean, when you say, when I went to Santa Marta, when I was in Santa Marta, cuando estuve en o cuando fui a. Yes, so when I went to Santa Marta, when I was in Santa Marta. Ready?
Uh,
Mm.
okay,
Listo,
thanks.
perfect. And the same, no? So you can include also those kind of connectors, like as soon as this happened, the other thing happened, or you know what? Before this happened, the other thing had happened before, something like this, but it's great. Listo. Bueno, my dear girls, so thank you for staying until the end. Gracias por quedarse hasta el final. It was just an idea to talk about our anecdotes. So you had to learn how to use the past continuous, the past perfect, yes, and the past and the simple past, yes. And in addition to the past tense, using the prepositions of time in past and the adverbs of time. Adverbs, hay una diferencia entre adverbios y preposiciones. Las preposiciones son in, on, and, for, that. Y los adverbios son antes, después, tan pronto como, una vez que, en el momento que. ¿Ready? Que son expresiones, no tanto como preposiciones, sino expresiones un poquito más largas, pero también de tiempo, ¿cierto? Que me van a permitir cosas parecidas, es decir, relacionar dos ideas con tiempo, ¿cierto? A través de una relación de tiempo, ¿vale? Entonces, that was the idea of today's class. Thank you for being here with me. We have class on Friday, Thursday.
Friday.
Friday, exactly. Thank you, Amy. So see you on Friday, girls. Nothing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the participation, and see you there in the next class. Okay. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye,
You.
thank
Bye.
you.
Goodbye. See you soon.